past week. June 18th, it was launched. And of course, we were first in
April.
line.
April, you
Did
meant,
I
not
just say
June.
June? I meant April.
You said June. You're jumping 2 months ahead.
2 months into the future. So April 18th, 2019, this game was released, and we were first in line. We made sure that our local game store called us to go get this game when it came in. Very excited for this game. I'm a huge fan of Lord of the Rings. I think a lot of people are. And this game sounded amazing. For those of you who are familiar with games like Mansions of Madness, you'll be right at home with this. It's the same style of gameplay, but now in the Lord of the Rings world, with the Lord of the Rings lore, and some new mechanics thrown in. So it's not just a clone of Mansions of Madness, but
it's not a reskin. It is
yeah.
it is its own standalone game, but it is a spiritual successor, so to speak, from Fantasy Flight Games.
That's right. One of my favorites, actually. Fantasy Flight Games is the games they have. In fact, many of my favorite games come from them.
Yeah, they have a lot of the Star Wars stuff. Now Lord of the Rings, Mansion of Madness is really fun, and we were looking for something to play with a campaign or like an ongoing thing, and this fit the bill perfectly. Came out at exactly the right time for us.
It did, absolutely. So I was excited to play it, and we had an opportunity to play it over the weekend. We didn't film the actual gameplay, but what we thought is we wanted to jump in now, show you the components from the game, what comes in the box, give you an overview of how the game plays, and there is a companion app that you need to download either on your phone, on your tablet, or on your PC. It's available on Steam, iOS, and Android. And so you play with that app, and that app actually acts as your GM, your game master.
Yes. Yeah.
So you do your movements on the map, and then you say, "Okay, we're done," and it tells you what happens next. It controls the movement of the enemies, that sort of thing. But first, let's take a look at the actual board game itself. This is the box. It's a good size box.
Nice healthy box.
It is. This is almost a standard size box for Fantasy Flight Games.
Yeah.
Like the previously mentioned Mansions of Madness, exact same size box.
Exactly the same size.
Imperial Assault, exactly the same size box. So this is a pretty standard Fantasy Flight. I keep wanting to say Final Fantasy. So let's have a look inside the box, shall we? Of course, you have your rules, your learn to play rule book, as well as a rules reference. This is essentially the glossary of all of the terms in the game. For quick lookup, you want to know how something works, you can look it up real quick in the manual. And the learn to play guide, very straightforward, very easy to read. It's only, I think, 16 pages total, including the front and back cover.
Yeah. The game setup was really easy. The first thing it says in there is open the app, follow along what it tells you to do.
Exactly.
And so the app is going to set up most of your gameplay.
And then inside there's a couple of boards. These essentially, they're all double-sided. These act as battlefields. When you're in certain scenarios, there's a battlefield. These large boards act as the battlefield. But what's amazing is inside you've got the actual board as the app tells you to set it up, and we'll show you the app later. It comes with all of these different hex style pieces, and these all fit together to make a randomized map. They're all double-sided, and the app tells you which pieces to put together, and it may it'll tell you to say put these two together like this, for example.
Side A, side B, and gives you an indication that they can be used in different scenarios because they can be attached to the same piece in different ways as well.
Hundreds of different ways. So, and that's what's awesome about the app in this game is you can play the same campaign again or the same scenario again, and it is completely customized. It is going to be totally randomized. You never know what you're going to expect, and that includes items on the map. Right? It's the same story. You maybe have the same goal in that particular scenario, but the map is different. There may be NPCs there that weren't there before, that kind of thing.
Side quests. There's side quests. We actually did do that in our playthrough because we started the game, and then one of our party showed up late, and we're like, yeah, let's try this. Let's try this again.
Let's
And
start
we
again.
played through, and we got a completely different scenario. Like the
Very large
result.
piece there with a,
Yeah, that's the next one. The mountain. Oh, no, that's a castle.
that's the castle ruins.
Where the goat was.
That's right. And all of these are double-sided, but here's what's neat about them. Up in the top corner, you can see there is a number. I don't know if that's clear or not. That one's 400B. This side is 400A. And they do that very specifically. One, you can organize all these things in numerical order. Makes them very easy to find.
Very easy to find,
But second, when the app tells you where to place it, it highlights that number so you can easily see what orientation to place it on the board and where it is on the board. So those are all the components. There's quite a few of them, and they all basically mean you're going to have a very randomized map every time you play.
Which is really cool, and you don't know, and we found that out while building this board. We're like, and then it says, "Oh, put another one here." I'm like, okay, we're building this the wrong direction, having to reorient it on the table even just to make sure we were going to have enough room for the direction it was seeming to go.
Now, the characters themselves. Every character that you play has an associated mini. So there's Legolas. Yep. That's Gimli. And there's 6 characters total throughout this campaign. And each character has their own mini. They all come in very, very nice bags to just keep them all in. Very organized. In fact, everything fits in there nicely. I've already opened mine. You know, I've got a couple of little pill bottles for some of the tokens. But everything fits in here with room for more, you know.
Expansion area setup.
A whole bunch of cards. Of course, it's a card-based game. For your character, each character has a deck of cards with abilities on it. So you're going to get abilities and items as well. And items are also upgradable, which is really cool.
So let's talk about those cards for a second. So every character, you'll start with a base set of cards, which is some base movement. You'll start with your character's set of cards, and then you'll pick a class, and you'll get the class set of cards, and then some starting items as well, which are the upgradable items, which is just really neat to think as you progress through this thing, you're going to find better stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. And as you progress through, so this is, as I mentioned earlier, a campaign-based game. So you're going to play multiple scenarios, and you're going to go from one scenario to the second chapter to third chapter. So this is a game you're going to want to play with the same people to continue your adventure. And we'll show you the app later on. You'll see how you can actually have multiple adventures, multiple parties playing the game. And then you just continue on as you get together with your friends to play.
Failure in a scenario also does not mean you must repeat that. It actually moves you to the next scenario anyway. So failure in a scenario just means that you may have missed out on some perks or some opportunities, but it still moves you along that journey.
That's right. So you can fail a scenario, but it doesn't prevent you from moving along in the story. The failure essentially becomes part of the story.
Yeah.
And that's a wonderful, games like Gloomhaven, if you fail, you can't continue until you can succeed.
Yeah.
Now, creatures. There's a little goblin.
Yep.
Little goblin guy, and we've got an orc marauder. Sorry, trying to get him in my hand. They're a little bit small. There's an orc marauder.
Yeah, with his axe and something else.
And we also have all the way up to these awesome looking hungry. I don't know what they call them. Hungry or hunting wargs.
Warg, W-A-R-G, it's a large wolf, is a warg.
Everybody knows what a warg is, Tico. Come on.
Well, you didn't know what it was.
I didn't say that. I said it was a hungry or a hunting warg. It has a descriptor on it. So this is you don't want to come up against the wargs. They're pretty tough.
What about the big guy? You got the big guy in there?
And all the big guy is in here too. So there's multiple of each of those. There's also orc hunters.
Ruffians.
There we've got a big troll.
I'm looking forward to facing off against him.
We have not come across the troll quite yet. So those are a bag of minis for that. And then you've got other items, lots of tokens to place on the board, search tokens. You've got walls and streams that will be placed as obstacles. And the obstacles are typically going to be part of your battle map instead of the actual adventure map. So more tokens. These are the search and the threat tokens. I've just put them in a pill bottle.
That's actually a good storage solution.
those are all the components in the game. Now let's jump over and have a look at the companion app, and you'll get an idea of how the game actually plays. So I've got that playing here in Steam. So when you first start your scenario, you're going to have a selection of all of your characters that are available. So you're going to have Aragorn, Bilbo, Gimli, and Legolas. Everyone understands who they are. They're, of course, famous from the Lord of the Rings movies, the book. Of course, we have 2 new characters that most people may not be familiar with. We have Beravor and Elena. And so you go through the game and you select, so I played as Beravor. So if we select Beravor here, and I believe you played as Legolas. Did you
I was Legolas the elf.
So let's choose those 2, and we'll continue on. Those are our 2 heroes. Here it tells us what our starting items are. So we look through the cards, we grab those items, and those are the items we start with as our character. And
they'll have, your weapon will have an attack, and it'll tell you what the attack does. Your armor will have some sort of a benefit to it. I think my cloak, I can discard inspiration in order to dodge an attack, like a dodge taking damage.
Exactly.
I think yours was better than mine because yours didn't require the actual inspiration to do that.
Right. So my travel garb prevents 1 damage anytime I am dealt damage, so I can prevent 1 of that damage. I'm just looking to see if I can find a weapon card. But each weapon card there's one. So this weapon card, I don't know if you can actually read it.
Yeah, probably not great.
There's multiple actions on it, and you basically need to get successes in order to use the actions on that card. But what's nice about it is each of the actions listed can be used only once, but you can use, if there's multiple actions available, if you have enough success rolls to do more than 1 action, you can do more than 1 action in one round.
Let's talk about that success rolls, because this is not a dice game. There are no dice in the box.
That's right.
A success roll is by turning cards off of your character decks.
That's right.
And there's a little indicator in the corner as to whether or not you got a success, you got a potential with inspiration that you can purchase a success, or if you just got a failure altogether.
That's right. So you're flipping over cards based on your character stats. Your character stats tells you, okay, for agility, your agility is 3, which means you're going to flip over, for an agility roll, you're going to flip over 3 cards, and you're going to add up the number of successes on that card. Or if you get the little leaf icon, that's inspiration that you receive by playing the game. If you have inspiration to spend, you can turn that into a success. And that is essentially a roll in the game without using dice. Yeah. So let's move on. Let's select the party name. Let's we're flipping tables, so let's let's go ahead and call us Flipping Tables, and we're going to begin our adventure. And it's going to come up, it's going to give us an overview of the adventure. For the sake of spoilers, I'm not going to let it go quite through, but there is a narrator here as well. That narrates through this, which is kind of cool. So let's embark on our adventure.
Just skip through that so nobody gets spoiled here.
No spoilers. So we continue on. Great little animation here. It gives us an overview of what we're trying to do. And we continue with our adventure. Now, before we can do our adventure, we want to select our role. There's Burglar, Guardian, Musician, Captain, Pathfinder, and Hunter.
And this will determine the last set of cards that you're going to get to go along in your deck.
So everybody gets role cards when you start your adventure here. Now, what's nice about it, the reason why we're getting that selection now is because every time you play a chapter, you can choose a new role. You don't have to be the same role every time. You're going to be the same character, but you don't have to be the same role. So you select, okay, well, Beravor, typically Beravor is a Pathfinder, so we'll select Pathfinder, and Legolas, of course, is a hunter.
And they do
hunter too.
Yeah, and they do give you recommended roles for the characters you've chosen. It says, like, on the back of their character card, recommended, or commonly is a hunter for Legolas, for example. You don't have to stick with that, though.
No, every time you start an adventure, it's going to ask you what your role is. You have the opportunity to switch up your role every time you play a new chapter. So we'll pick the generic ones for us, so Pathfinder and Hunter, and we'll embark on our adventure. Now this is where it generates. So right now it's actually randomizing the map, and it's going to come up and tell us what items or what map pieces we're going to place down. All right, so there it's telling us to put in 302A. So we find 302A and we place it on our play area. Now this map, you'll see the fog of war here. This fog of war kind of gives you an idea of where the map is going to go, so you can place it on your table in a certain manner.
Yeah.
So once we have that one, it's going to tell us. It's going to give us an idea. Place heroes indicated here. So we place our heroes on that starting position, and then we continue. And now here's a search icon. Okay, now it's telling us that a collection of stones inscribed with sigils is neatly stacked into a pile. So we're standing in this area. It's as if we're looking around and we see something of note, and we can search that object. So we put a search token on the board in that location. And may I put another one? There's another one. A mound juts up from the earth, indiscreetly covering whatever lies beneath. These are things that Tico and I did not actually get in our first 2 times
these are
playing
new.
This campaign.
These are new.
Right? So that's how random this is. So there's multiple things that could happen on this particular chapter. We could play this chapter again and play a whole new game. So that's something else we can search. There's a new tile that it wants us to place. There's an NPC. So we place a person token there. That is somebody you can interact with. You can go in you can talk to this person. And yet another tile has been placed. Another tile. And exploration tokens. Now, you'll notice on the board already that those 2 new map tiles are grayed out, meaning we have not explored that area yet. When a character first enters that area, then you take the exploration token and you would click it in the app, and it will tell you what's in that area. Much like the area we just saw with the search tokens, it will then give us search tokens if there are any for that particular area. This is how you get inspiration.
Yeah, so by finding that token is a double-sided token that is a location area on one side, and then you flip over and it becomes an inspiration token that sits on your card, can be used to upgrade your rolls.
That's to upgrade your rolls.
Rolls, like your dice, your card roll. That's what they call it.
Oh yes, sorry, your roll. Yeah, not your Pathfinder roll.
ROLLS.
That's right. That's right. Your tests. We'll call them tests.
Tests, because that's less confusing.
They're typically called a test, right? It may be an agility test or a might test, that sort of thing. So we continue on. So we get inspiration when the game starts. Now we've given an objective. We must confront the thieves, and that's what this character down here was. This is a ragtag band of thieves. So we have a goal now. Confront the thieves. That's what we want to do. Now it's our action phase. In the action phase, each character can do 2 actions, and that action can be to move, and a move action is moving 2 spaces. You'll see lines on the map here. That is a separation of a space. So we are starting in this middle space, and we can move 2. So we would move, we can move 1, 2, or since it's attached, that's 1 move here. We can one move we can get to that person. Another action is an interact, which would mean talking with that person. That would be interacting, or we can investigate the search icons, for example. So we might want to investigate the search icon. So Tico, say on your turn you wanted to investigate what this icon...
I want to find out what that thing is. So I will choose to do that, Sean. Okay. Let's click there.
In the app, we click on it. It gives us a reminder of what it is. A collection of stones inscribed with sigils is neatly stacked into a pile. So Tico, would you like to search that?
Yeah, so here's an interesting thing too. Based off of the flavor text there too, we might go, okay, that might mean that it's going to be a wisdom test to check this out. And I might go, well, I'm not quite smart enough to check this out based off my character's wisdom, so maybe I don't do that one. But I'm going to do it for now, and we'll see what it's going to test.
But we don't actually know what it is.
We have no idea. You can make the assumption of what it might be, and
based on experience, yeah. So
yeah.
So let's search it. And now we're told to do a roll. So we're said, okay, this is what it is. A pile of stones displays ancient symbols, now overgrown with moss. So Tico, you must test your knowledge. I believe
wisdom?
that's knowledge. I've got the character cards right here.
There's no knowledge. That's not one of the things.
That is wisdom.
Wisdom.
That is
As
wisdom.
I said, it might be.
That's right. You did say it might be. So here's Legolas.
Yeah.
This is the character card for Legolas. So we can see that Legolas's wisdom is 3, which means Tico is he's gonna flip over 3 cards for his wisdom test.
Yeah.
So
and then we don't know what a success or fail is either.
No, we don't. So say we're playing the game. Tico, how many successes did you get?
18.
You did not. Let's say
let's say he out of 3 cards. Say I got 2 successes out of 3 cards.
So I'm going to choose in the app that he got 2 successes, and we're going to confirm that. And then we can see the sigils are imbued with power, though you are not quite sure how to harness it. Gain 1 inspiration. So you've gained an inspiration, and that item is now searched. So
I am feeling inspired.
It wasn't anything significant, but Tico got an inspiration token, which is going to help later on.
Yeah.
Okay. And that is basically how the game plays through. Somebody might actually, instead of talking to this person, we might move from our middle space, move 1, 2, and as soon as we enter this extra space here, we're going to explore that area. And that colors it in, so now it's explored, and it tells us a little bit about it. A river winds through the woodland, carving steep banks into the landscape where a bridge spans its width. We discard the exploration, gain 1 inspiration.
Yeah.
And then we continue through. Oh, now there's a search token, right? An old tree stands far above the rest, some ancient power feeding its twisted root. And your journey continues. And so now we have a new open area. We've got another exploration token that we can click on. When we are done doing everything we can do,
everybody's expended their moves.
Everybody has expended all their moves. We click on the little hourglass in the bottom corner, and it moves on to the shadow phase. And this is where the enemies will move, if there are any, or the threat increases. Now let's talk a little bit about threat. You'll see the bar at the top just grew by 5.
Which is not that bad, actually, compared to what it was when we were playing with 5 players.
So threat increases by 2 per player, plus 1 for every unexplored area, and then there are some other factors, I think has to do with threats and darkness.
Yeah.
If you do not finish your goal by the time that threat meter reaches the top, in this case 64, we're currently at 5 of 64, you lose. If you do not successfully complete by the time it hits 64, then you have failed that particular scenario. You did not fail the campaign, but you failed the scenario. And that is, again, as we mentioned earlier, a failure is not meaning you have to play again. Failure just means you failed, and the failure becomes part of your story. It becomes part of your lore.
Yeah, you may miss out on some bonuses, some extra attack power, something may have, like, we don't know, because you're not seeing both sides. It's not saying, oh, if you had done this.
Let's talk about lore for a second. As you play through the game, you're going to gain what's called lore. Lore is used to upgrade your weapons. So the more lore you have, or your weapons and your items. So the item cards themselves have a purchase value in the bottom left corner of them. That is, sorry, I'm thinking different. XP that you gain from playing is used to upgrade some of your items. Lore is used to get more powerful. It's to get more powerful versions of the items you have. So my cloak has a lore value of, I think, 23. So as soon as we as a party gain 23 lore, I can spend that lore, and we all share, right? We all get 23 lore.
We all have 23.
Right. I can spend 23 lore to upgrade my travel cloak to make it more powerful, or upgrade my staff to make it more powerful when it hits.
And you'll trade you'll trade that card in for another card in the deck that's named, like, Sean's Cloak of Magical Flight and Fancy.
Sure, except Sean's not actually in the game, but you get the idea.
What? I thought I saw a Sean token in there. Maybe that was the ogre.
Right. So we can spend that on the items we have on our character. The Chronicle button gives you an idea of what's happened in each round and what actually happened, if you've spoken to people, if there was attacks, who attacked who. It's basically a history of what is happening in the game. That is the basic rounds in this game. And you just continue that round after round. You get to your goal, and then something else may happen. The map will open up much bigger. And you'll have more items to search, and then you'll have another goal. You may have to find items. You may have to find, say, 3 items to continue, but you don't know which of these search icons are those items. So as a team, you're going to work that out and play through it. Wonderful game. Honestly, yeah. It is.
Let's talk really quickly about the shadow bar at the top there. You saw that number 15.
Yeah. At the top. Yes. All right. Let's go back to that. Sure.
Yeah. Let's mention that really quickly. So it also gives you indication when we hit 15 shadow. Is it shadow? Yeah. Shadow. Something is going to happen. We don't know what it is, but something it's going to advance the storyline at some point when we hit 15. So that won't end our thing, but it may be more guys come at us. It may be new areas open up. Something is going to happen, and it progresses along. So you can see every time. It's like when we hit 15, something's going to happen. When we hit 35, something's going to happen.
And it's never anything good.
It has not been yet.
No, it is.
Has not been yet.
It is a threat. This is the threat meter.
Yeah.
So when it hits 15, something bad is going to happen. It's going to be, like Chico said, it's going to be more enemies are going to hit the field. And those enemies will chase you. They will target certain characters. They will follow you. So you can try to, concentrate on just your goal, or you can decide to fight them, and you have to kind of weigh the fact, like, do we fight them and waste our turn, or do we run to our goal and hope to get away from them? That's how you play is completely up to you.
Yeah, let's talk to those guys real quick, just so we can sort of show how the enemies are represented on the board as well.
Well, I don't know when they come out, so I can't really force that.
Talk to those guys, remember?
All right. Let's just select an item. I'm going to test. Okay. Now we've got enemies out. So there's an enemy.
Yeah.
All right. Your enemy shows no sign of mercy nor any inclination that they will accept the same in return. So place 2 ruffians on that spot. Okay. And then so now our objective is now updated. Defeat the ruffians. And there's the ruffian down below, and it's a perfect representation of the character. I don't have a ruffian out, but it looks exactly like the character.
It's the mini. It's the mini that you've got. So
now we can attack it for free because we're on that spot. We have a free attack option immediately because they've appeared in front of us. So we would click on them, and we'd say, okay, I'm going to attack. This is, again, when you're going to do a roll, because your weapon is going to say, in order to use this weapon, so my staff, I know, uses agility, okay? Chico's bow might use might.
Agility, but yeah.
They're both, okay. Gimli's axe uses might.
Might, that uses might, okay. Absolutely.
So I know my agility is 3, so I'm going to flip over 3 cards and say... and then I'm going to look at my ability, and I know that if I can spend 3 successes, I can actually hit for a total of 5 plus stun. All right, so I can stun. I'm going to stun him, which means he cannot attack back. Okay, typically if you do not stun an enemy, they can counterattack.
If you are still in range, which is why I love being an archer, because I'm not in range for these melee guys to hit me back.
That's right. But let's pretend I didn't stun them. Let's pretend I hit him for 4. Okay, actually, let's hit him for 5. We'll show one of the guys is dead. Okay, and I'm going to apply the damage. Confirm. One of them is now dead. We're told to remove 1 ruffian, but still 1 remains. Now, that 1 ruffian can now counterattack, and I'm going to say yes, he can attack because I'm in his space. Now, what you're seeing here is I'm going to take 2 damage if I do not pass. This is a might roll, okay? So your foe's curved blades glint with the promise of your demise. Might negates. What this means is I must look at my might value, and I must flip over that many cards, and if I get successes, I can negate that damage. So say I only flipped over one success, okay? I would only take 1 damage because I negated one of them. Lucky for me, my cloak also immediately negates 1 damage. So in this particular case, I'm lucky enough to evade all that damage. I don't have to take any. And taking damage is a card. You take a damage card, you read what it says, it may tell you to do something, you have to resolve it immediately. And each character has X number of damage and X number of fear that you can accumulate before you are knocked out of the round. Or knocked out of that particular campaign. It's your health, essentially. It's your health.
It's your health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a sample of an attack. And then in the shadow phase, the enemies themselves will also move and attack, and the same thing will happen. You will have to try to negate the damage given for either damage or fear. And that is pretty much Lord of the Rings: Journeys in Middle-earth. For those of you who have played Mansions of Madness, you'll see the similarities, but also the changes with the cards and the items you're using and the armor. And there's also abilities that you can apply to other people. You can guard other people, right? So if I have an item that allows me to guard for 2, I can offer to guard Tico if he's getting attacked, and it will mitigate. Say, if I have guard 2, I can guard Tico against 2 damage if he's going to take it. He can choose to take that, or he can choose to negate it on his own if he'd like.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really fun game. We played the 2, and it seems they may go back and forth between what we just showed there, which was sort of a journey scenario, and a battle scenario, which is the 2 bigger cards where everything sort of dropped on there, and we have it's a lot of fighting, which I also really enjoyed the fighting. The battle map's really fun.
The battle map is a lot of fun because it's just movement and battle. There's no searching icons. Actually, it can be things you still have to interact with, but you need to get rid of the enemies first. Very, very story-based. Wonderful story so far. We've done a couple of chapters already. We really enjoyed it. I would say each chapter took, I'd say the first chapter probably, an hour and a half?
It was probably about an hour and a half, but that was us learning and, like having to check what certain words meant and stuff like that. Playing through it the second time, I think we cut back on that a little bit.
Yeah, and then the battle map itself it still lasted quite a while because there was a boss fight and
he kept on ticking.
He did keep on ticking.
It was basically a standard video game boss battle where exactly. he keeps popping back up.
That's right.
It was fun.
So that is Lord of the Rings: Journeys in Middle-earth. The board game available now in your game store. Canadian, I think it's $99 American, $120 Canadian. And there are expansions coming. There's a digital expansion coming soon with 11 more chapters for a measly $5. And then there is another smaller expansion that gives you 3 more enemy tokens, so more advanced enemies, and some extra cards to add in, cards and items to add into your deck. I have no idea how much that one is going to be, but this game is a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to those expansions. This is a great game if you have a group of people that are going to get together on a regular basis and continue in the campaign together. And upgrade your characters, upgrade your weapons, and it's a lot of fun. So thanks for joining us for this episode of Flipping Tables for Lord of the Rings: Journeys in Middle-earth.